In this video, I want to go over the basic vocabulary we're going to be using for quadrilaterals. There are all kinds of different shapes that are quadrilaterals, and we're going to give out specific definitions for all of them so that we're going to be able to recognize them when we see them. I gave you a reference sheet because I like you, and these are going to be the keywords that we talk about. So, you should go through this video and then write down definitions in your own words, but make sure you pick up these key ideas. A quadrilateral is just any polygon, and can you see the key prefix in there, and do you know what it means? So quad means 4, just like bi means 2 and tri means 3. So a quadrilateral is any polygon with 4 sides. All right. And then there are all kinds of specific types of quadrilaterals. The least exciting one, and we will barely talk about it at all, but it does come up at some point in time, so we will talk about it, is a kite. A kite is a quadrilateral that has 2 pairs of congruent sides, but those congruent sides are adjacent to each other. So here's a quadrilateral, those 2 sides are congruent, and these 2 sides are congruent. All right, and you the clue is right there in the name. It kind of looks like a paper kite you might fly on a windy day. So 2 pairs of adjacent congruent sides. All right. The next definition is a trapezoid. And this is one where I'm going to need you to write down this kind of exact definition. So a trapezoid is a quadrilateral with at least, and I'm going to underline that, 1 pair of parallel sides. Okay, I will talk in the next video about why I underlined that. So an image of a quadrilateral that you might think about. So this is kind of our go-to picture of a quadrilateral. I'm sorry, of a trapezoid. So you can see that the top and bottom sides are parallel to each other. And in this case, the other 2 sides are not parallel to each other. Another thing that we talk about sometimes is we talk about isosceles trapezoids. So a trapezoid is isosceles if it has 2 sides that are the 2 sides that aren't parallel to each other. If they're the same length, then we call that an isosceles trapezoid. All right, next, and now we're getting into more of the meat of this unit. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel sides. All right, so if the top and bottom sides are parallel and the left and right sides are parallel, then we have a parallelogram. So this might be our go-to picture of a parallelogram. Okay, so the top and bottom sides are parallel, the left and right sides are parallel. The other 3 things are all examples of parallelograms. So a rhombus is a parallelogram where all 4 of the sides are congruent. Okay, so you can see in this parallelogram that the top and bottom sides are longer than the left and right sides. But if they were all the same, maybe something a little more like that, then that would be a rhombus shape. Notice it's still different from a kite shape. but because in a kite, 2 of the sides are congruent and the other 2 aren't congruent. So a rhombus is like that. Rectangles and squares you're probably used to. These are shapes we talked about on Sesame Street. So rectangle is, so a rhombus had all 4 sides congruent. A rectangle is going to have all 4 angles congruent. A parallelogram where all angles, and instead of saying that all angles are congruent, I'll just say that all angles are right angles. Okay, so you guys know what a rectangle looks like. And the last definition we'll talk about is a square. And see if you can guess before I write it out how we're going to define a square. Well, a square has all of the features of both a rhombus and a rectangle. So all angles are right angles, like a rectangle, and all the sides are congruent, like a rhombus. So a square looks like this. Okay, so that's a start. So we just talked about the definitions of all of the basic types of quadrilaterals that we're going to talk about over the course of this unit. You're going to notice that that's just the definition line on that reference sheet. So the rest of the facts we're going to fill out over the course of this unit, mostly by doing proofs and by paying attention to these definitions.